it's Robyn Scherzer with Robyn Stampin' Hood. Welcome to my hood. And today we are going to do a class on the circle sayings. Now you can find the circle sayings bundle on page 17 of the annual catalog. And it comes with a circle punch and of course the coordinating stamp set. You're gonna love it, you guys. I love it. This is actually a $1 million person's creation, Jessica Taylor. Yay, thank you, Jessica. We all love circle punches, so you guys are gonna love this class. So sit back and let's get started. Okay, so let's get started with the first card. Now again, you can find this bundle on page 17 of the annual catalog, and you can see it's got all these fun different things that are gonna fit inside it's a 2 3/8 inch circle punch. That is not something that we've had in the past as a punch, so you definitely wanna get this. We have the 2 inch, we have a 2.5 inch, I think, and a 1 3/4. And so this, I might have just lied about the 2 inch, but I'm not sure. I'll have to check on that. But yeah, you need a circle. There's so much nicer to just go ahead and punch. So we're gonna start with this and this card here. And I've used a few products that are online exclusives only. So you will have to go to my online store, which is the robynscherzer.stampinup.net. And if you search for online exclusives, you'll come to a couple pages that have different things. So you can see this little stitching right here. This is actually these dies, and it's called the Radiating dies. And again, they are an online exclusive only. And I have used these dies on a couple of the cards that we're going to do today. So you definitely want this into your stash. It has a fun little, you can see it's just like a little stitching around the smaller one. And then we're going to use this bigger one on a later card, and you can see how it's kind of like a sun ray kind of thing. It's fun. So you definitely need this in your stash of stamping things. So that's the Radiating dies. And then the other thing that's an online exclusive that I'm using on this card, you won't find it in a catalog, again, you'll only find it online, is we have a pack of 3D embossing folders that are just called Basics 3D. And there are 3 different designs, and let me see if we can see. So this is one of them. I don't know, can you see that very well? It's kind of, to me, it kind of reminds me of multiple things. It looks like there's little like stars in there, but they could be starfish too. And then it looks like just little petals of flowers. So that's one of them. And then the big dots, those are fun. And this is the one that we're using here. It's kind of like a crosshatch type thing, very subtle. So we're gonna use that there. Okay, so again, those are 2 of the items that we're gonna use that can only be found online at my store. So make sure you go out to robynscherzer.stampinup.net and you can buy them there. All right, so very simple. This is a very basic. We're gonna start with the basic one first, and then we'll kind of go up from there. So this is just your normal half of a sheet of thick white. I always use the thick if I am going to use it on my base. So that's the thick white, and it's just cut right in half at 5.5 by 8.5, right? And then this is Pool Party, and I've just cut it a 1/4 inch less. So this is actually 5 1/4 by 4 inches. So let's go ahead and put this on. And normally if I was using a different color card base, I would put a white sheet inside, but since this is already white, we're just gonna keep it like that. So I'm just framing it out. You want to make sure you have even. And sometimes I can do that with no problem, and other times I cannot. So then I went ahead and cut out, this is new color. Have you seen it? It's Azure, I'm going to say that wrong. It's an Azure blue, but it's Azure Afternoon. And I've cut it out with the Radiating dies. This is the smallest die. So we're just going to lay that down. And I like glue because if I make a mistake, I have a few split seconds that I can scoot it, and it really holds. Some of the snails out there, some of the double-sided tape just does not hold. And when you have this rough area here, you want to make sure it's going to adhere. Okay, so there's that. So there's the base of our card. So let's do some stamping, shall we? I think we should. Okay, so I'm gonna use a little scrap piece here. I always put S's on my scraps so I know that they're scraps. So I also want to use a piercing pad, which we do sell in our catalogs, because this is a photopolymer stamp. So it's super important that you use this to give yourself good coverage of ink. All right, I'm gonna actually set this aside for just a second here. And I think what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna punch. I don't normally punch first. I normally stamp and then punch, but with this, it'll help me line up the die or the stamp that I'm gonna use. So I always punch upside down so I can see exactly where I'm punching, and that helps me then save on my paper. So I'm utilizing my paper in the best way that I can. So because I needed the circle to kind of figure out where my template is, that's why I did that first. But normally I would stamp and then punch it out. So this is the Berry Burst, which if you don't have it, you need to get it. It's a beautiful, this is a really well inked pad as well. It's a beautiful shade of pink. So there we go, we got that. And then I'm going to use the Azure Afternoon Ink. Again, it's brand new. Well, brand new in a month, right? We have the new catalog out now for a month. And then I'm just gonna stamp that there for thank you. Perfect. And let's get that out of the way. And now I'm gonna actually put some dimensionals on the back of this to pop it up off the page. I'm gonna make sure I have some in the center. I am gonna go a little crazy on my dimensionals because I do, when I have a big circle like this, I wanna make sure it is not going to collapse when I send it to a friend. Okay. Oops, I just threw that into a container I didn't mean to. So then I'm just gonna offset it right in the middle of this. Not pretty, I love it. And then I created a bow ahead of time so you didn't have to watch me struggle. This is the Pool Party taffeta ribbon. Gorgeous, gorgeous. And for me, when I attach bows, I love the glue dots. The glue dots will hold it into place. I know some people like to use the liquid glue, but I have found it just doesn't hold it the way it should. So how I use glue dots is I take whatever I want to adhere and I put it to the glue dot. Because otherwise my oils on my hand, they're gonna make this less sticky. So now I have my glue dot on there and I'm just gonna stick it right to my little project, give it a good push, and there you go. Easy peasy lemon squeezy, right? I know. All right, we are gonna move on to card number 2. Okay, are you ready for card number 2? So this is part of the radiating dies that I showed you earlier, and see how it's kind of like the little sunshine rays coming out? That's what it reminded me of. I thought it would go perfect with that. So let's go ahead and get started with this card. So you need to also have this set. Now this to me is really even more of a must. Like this should be at the top of your list of dies to have in your arsenal of crafting if you don't already have them. So these are called Stylish Shapes, and they're great because they have the stitching around them and it just adds that little extra something. So I actually used this middle one, or I guess the third largest would be what it is. And we're gonna create this little scene here. Again, I'm using my piercing pad because it is a photopolymer stamp. And I did not get that prepped for you ahead, so let's do that real quick here. So we'll just put it on a block. So do that. And then we are going to go ahead and stamp this right in the center here. Okay. So, oops, let's pull that off there a second. Let's ink this up really well. And this is Memento, and I'm going to use some blends, so I want to make sure that I'm using Memento ink, black ink. So give it a nice even push so it comes out good for you. See me pushing and pulling, and ooh, beautiful, right? Okay, so now we're going to color this in. Now, the first thing we're going to do is use our Daffodil Delight blends, and if you've not used blends before, they're awesome. The color blends together so much nicer than a marker. So what I do is I always do my dark first, and I follow what Stampin' Up! Has already given me on the lines to show that's where the shadow is or where the dark is. So I'm gonna go and I'm just gonna hit along all the lines because I want it to be a little darker. And it looks like my blender pen has been, or my blend has been a little abused. You should always like work off the side and not on the tip like that. So it looks like somebody got a little carried away, but that's all right. Well, we'll do a little. And so now I'm going in with the light and I'm just kind of blending it, making it a little, giving it a little different. You don't want it all the same color, right? So there we go. So to do that, and then I'm going to come back with a darker, and you can see if you don't know about our blends, if it's got that thick line, it means it's the brush end. When it's got that thinner line, it means it's the fine tip end. So I'm actually going to take the fine tip end, and I'm going to color in the sun, because this I just want totally the same darkness, right? Make sure I don't hit my little wave there. And get that all around. Fun, 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 fun. Yes, perfect. Okay. Now, I do not yet have the Azure Afternoon marker. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to take my Azure Afternoon ink pad and I'm squeezing it in to touch the pad. I want the lid to touch the pad because what I want to do is I want to grab that ink. So I'm going to take, whoops, I didn't mean to close it. I just get so used to closing it. This is the one time I don't want you to close it. And I know I've told you before to close it. So I'm going to take my blender pen. Now this is different than what we just used on the sun. So the sun are blends that are actual alcohol markers. This is called a blender pen, which has a clear liquid in it that helps you do some blending. So I'm picking up the ink because that's what I really want. And I'm just gonna hit right now because it'll be a little darker. I'm gonna hit where the waves are, the lines are. And then as it starts to lighten up, because it will, then I'm gonna go back in and fill in the blank spots. I like to kind of do the swirling of it. It helps me a little bit to bring it all together so it doesn't look quite so. So I'm going to, that was an official sound. I'm gonna add some more here and then we'll get it filled in. And you don't want to run this too much on the paper because it will start to pill the paper. So you just kind of want to keep moving with it and not stay in the same spot. And you can see how I'm getting different colors there. I'm going to come back, grab the rest of that ink. I'm going to just hit around there. And there you go. If you don't have the blends, that's what you can do. All right. So now I'm going to keep this open because we will need this again. And we're going to add to our little radiating die. This is the small one or the medium one. We used on the first card, we used the small and then this is the medium. Okay, so I want to get the Thinking of You from the stamp set. So what I like to do is lay it down on my grid so I can kind of see that it's even or not even. And I want it to, I'm kind of using that line as a guide. Oops, it keeps wanting to stick to my fingers. So let's move that. And then I set my block on top of it, okay? So I'm gonna go back to this Azure Afternoon, and I'm gonna stamp that right there. Beautiful. And then I'm gonna come in with my punch, because I still wanna use my punch from this, because this is a great set, right? So I'm just gonna take a scrap of the Azure Afternoon, and I'm gonna take my punch, and I'm just gonna punch out a circle, and this should layer perfectly in that circle. Isn't that fun? So see that it doesn't always have to be the center. You can use other dies to utilize the different circles. So that's what I love about this too. So I'm gonna just put this right in the middle. Yay, I love it. Love it, love it, love it. And then we're gonna pop it up like we did the first card. And again, I do not like my, oops, they kind of stuck together, so we'll leave them like that. I don't like my things to sink, because after they sit a while, they start to kind of fall in on each other. So it's super important to not let them do that. So I'm gonna go ahead and take my base. We'll put it together from the base up now. So again, this is the Azure Afternoon. Am I even saying that right? I don't know. And then I'm going to take the Radiating die, the Daffodil Delight, and put that on there. Just layer that, and it's just kind of frames out nicely, right? Okay. And now we can come back, oops, with this die and layer that right in the middle. I just think it's so nice how they fit so nicely in with each other. So we'll go ahead and do that. All right, and then I did cut, because the paper is a little darker, I did cut a 5 1/4 by 4 to go on the inside. So then you can write in it or stamp in it and do whatever your heart desires in it. So I'm just gonna do that real quick too. Yay. All right, and then let's finish putting our little circle on. Was not wanting to cooperate with me. Okay, so then I'm just gonna kind of lay this so it follows that without covering it up. So maybe I should move my hand so I'm not covering it up. So it's down just a little bit further. Perfect. And of course you always need bling, right? Yes, of course. That's just even a silly question to even say. So I'm actually using these Glossy Dots assortments. I love them. They're bright, they're fun. So I'm gonna use the Daffodil Delight, and we'll just add some around the card. And you should always probably add odd numbers. So I'm a kind of a, let's do 3. So I always do 3, but you can do 5, 7, 1, whatever your heart desires. So do that. And then I'll do one more. And I always try to put them in a semi-triangle. Oops, it's popping away from me there. Let's get that back. We'll do, maybe do that way or that way. We'll do that way. Yeah, we'll do it up a little bit. Okay, so there you go. There is the second card. Is that not super easy, super cute? Okay, card number 3. So this one has a lot of fun stuff going on We did some embossing, some Wink of Stella. You're gonna love it. So I am gonna show you how to emboss. I don't think I've done a video with embossing before. I can't remember, but I don't think so. So we're gonna do that first. So we have a really cool thing that you can find on page 136 of the catalog. It's called the Embossing Additions Toolkit. And you're gonna get, for only $27, you're gonna get all this fun stuff to help you emboss. So here's the little kit right here. You're gonna get a little brush, you're gonna get a tray, a reverse tweezers. These are great. These are metal with the plastic tips. These are awesome for holding embossing stuff, and an embossing buddy. So let me show you how it works here. So I'm gonna take my scrap piece of paper. We're gonna use, this is Coastal Cabana, and the embossing buddy is to help with cling. So all you do is you run it across the area that you're going to emboss. So that's just helping with cling. So I can put that aside, and now I'm gonna take my stamp that I wanna use, and I'm gonna use Versamark. Now Versamark is a watermark ink, and it's thicker and it will stay wet longer. And I'm just making sure I'm getting really good coverage because we used this last night and quite a few of us were using it. So I want to make sure it's good to go. So I'm going to stamp, but I'm actually want to grab my pad here to make sure I'm getting really good coverage. So I'm not letting that move. I'm just going to make sure I get the good stuff. So you can kind of see where it is, but I'm going to do that one more time because I did kind of mess around with that a little too much. So I'm going to do my embossing buddy again over here. Okay, and then we're going to ink up with the Versamark. And again, I just want to make sure I get really good coverage with it because you want your embossing powder to stick. So I'm going to go ahead and do that again. And I'm just going to give it nice, even pressure, make sure I get a really good image. And then I'm going to bring my tray over along with my white embossing powder, and be generous. You're going to dump this right back in to your container. So I am doing that there. And then just make sure you get it really covered well. And then I always kind of clunk, clunk, clunk on here to get all the little excess, but that's also why you have a brush. While they gave you this cute little brush, because if you had any excess you needed to get rid of, you could just come along and do that. So this whole setup is a really nice little addition to have for embossing. So we're done putting the powder on, so I'm just going to set that aside for just a second, get this stuff out of the way so you don't have to watch it all blow off of me, which it would. And let's just get this cleaned up here. And then we will go ahead and grab our heat gun. And now this is where it's nice that if this was a smaller piece of paper, I would hold it like this so I wouldn't get burned. And then I'm gonna bring my heat gun in here. And you're just gonna kind of move it around. You don't want it to sit too long in one place because you don't want to burn the embossing powder either. So can you see it starting to kind of move a little bit? You'll see it start to change. So I'm just kind of moving around, waiting. And this little tweezers is great to have because then you're not going to burn your fingers. So see, now you can see how the color is changing and the embossing powder is melting. So you slowly just want to go around. And you can see it's all melted. And you don't want to keep doing it because you will burn it. Now, I missed that little spot right there. So I'm just going to have to live with that, and that's okay. It's okay. So I'm just going to let it cool down for a minute before I do anything else. So we'll let it set aside there for a second. And then I want to show you this. This is the embossing folder that I used. It's called Painted Texture 3D. And it's kind of like when you have knockdown on your walls. That's what it looks like. So that's what I did with this Melon Mambo piece. And then I did want to show you, this is another set of dies that I used for this too. So you can see this piece here, the white piece here is the third largest. And then this edging right here is this right here. So this is a great little set to have as well. I use these quite often for lots of projects. And this is called the Scalloped Contours die. And it does have a coordinating stamp set that it goes with as well. So I did use that. All right, so let's go back to our card and I'll show you what we're gonna do here. So then now your punch, you're just gonna come in with your punch and make sure it's nice. And this is why I say I usually stamp and then I punch, because I can make this nice and even. Where if I tried to put it evenly on the punch piece, I would probably not have a lot of luck. So there, is that cool or what? So then I did with the stylish shapes that I showed you before, I cut out a piece of Daffodil Delight to edge it, which just makes it pop out like that. So beautiful, right? So let's go ahead and put that on. Love it, love it, love it. How can you not love this set? It's got, so like, look at, we've done a thank you. We've done a thinking of you. Oh my gosh, there's so much possibilities with this set. So this is Coastal Cabana cardstock. So I'm gonna go ahead and fold it for my base. Get our base set up here. And then I did do a white inside because I wanna make sure you have something to write on, if you so desire, or stamp on. So I'm just gonna edge that around like that. All right, and then we'll put on our, I'm gonna do a little bit more burnishing there. It's not quite laying flat. And then we're gonna go ahead and put this piece on. Easy peasy lemon squeezer. All right, oops. See, that's why I like the glue. See, I could move it right back into place, even though I was a little sloppy there. And then this, I just did that edge like I showed you in this, that edge is right there. And we're gonna go ahead and put that on next. Just lots of color. I love the brights. So this is a fun, bright birthday card. How can you not just love it? All right, and then we'll come back with this piece and put this piece on. And again, I like the glue with this because, you know, this is bumpy and the glue will really adhere it down, where you don't always get that with the two-sided tape runners. So just keep that in mind when you're looking for an adhesive. Okay, I'm just gonna hold that down for a second. Oh my gosh, is that so wonderful? Yes, it is. So then we're gonna place that right there. Again, we wanna use our dimensionals and we're gonna put quite a few on here because this is an even bigger circle than our circle punch. Oops. Let's make sure Celebrate is going right at the top here. And we'll offset it just a little bit. Fun, right? So now we want to go ahead and stamp. Now there's no die cut for this, but you can stamp it and fussy cut it out. So I am just going to stamp it with my Memento because again, I'm going to use my blends. Oop, that's really dark, isn't it? I think that's good though. I'm gonna do one more just to make sure. Just to make sure, in case I need to. Well, that one's better, I think. That one's smeared just a little bit. So that's probably a good thing to always wash your stamp between inkings because it will help with stuff like that. Okay, so now I'm gonna take my Flirty Flamingo blends and I'm looking for my dark one. So I'm gonna use my dark one first. And I'm gonna use the chisel tip because I just wanna go along the lines of the cupcake paper, okay? And then I'm gonna come back in with the brush end of my pink, the Flirty Flamingo, and just kind of blend it all together. And sometimes when you're doing this, you can't tell at first until it dries, like the darkness, but then I'm gonna come back in and just give it a little bit more highlights with dark so you can see it a little better, if that makes sense. So sometimes you just have to play around with these to make sure you're getting the desired effect. That takes a little practice. And then I'm gonna take my Daffodil Delight, and I'm gonna take the dark first, and I'm just gonna color in like the cupcake part of it, right? We're gonna say it's a vanilla cupcake. And then I'm gonna hit along these highlighted lines with the dark. Again, Stampin' Up! Is giving you where you need to go with the highlights. And then I'm gonna come in with the lighter and just start to blend it all together. Okay, oh my gosh, is that cute or what? Yes, yes it is. So that, and then because I like my sparkle, we're gonna come in with the Wink of Stella. If you don't have a Wink of Stella, you need one. It's just a clear glitter, and I'm gonna put it on the frosting. I don't know, can you see it in this picture? You can kind of see, or in this, on this card, it kind of glitters on the frosting. I don't know, you might see it better now when I laid it like that. But it just gives it that little extra something, something. I love it. Okay, so there's that. I'm gonna let that dry, and then I'm gonna fussy cut it out. Okay, so I fussy cut out the cupcake, and you can see it's dried nicely, and it won't come off when you do your finger across it. So I've gone ahead and I've put dimensionals on the back. So we're just gonna set it right in the middle of this circle. And then of course we need just a little bit more bling bling, right? So I'm going back to the Glossy Dots assortment, and we're gonna go ahead and, ooh, they're being sticklers there. We'll go ahead and put some on our card. Yay, I love these. They're so bright and cheerful. So we'll put them on the circle to finish it off. If I can pick it up, they're being a little stubborn tonight. So let's see here. Okay, we're gonna try one more. There we go. And we'll put one there. And we'll put one more on there. Because like I said, you always wanna put odd numbers. And if you can put it in a triangle, and then your eye kind of goes to where it needs to go. Oh, I used the pool party on that one, but this one I used the other. So there you go, you guys. That is the third card. So this set is really wonderful. And like I said, you get a circle punch. That's a circle punch that we haven't had before. And that's 2 3/8 along with the coordinating stamp set, which is wonderful. It has all the different things that can go in it. So these are the 3 cards we made at my Circle Sayings class. So I hope you enjoyed it, and you can go onto my online store at any time and purchase the products that you saw in this video. Thanks for stopping by, and happy stamping.